Dozens of Spalding County families have now been forced out of their apartments because of poor housing conditions. The city of Griffin inspected all units at the Ava Park Apartments on Thursday and then revoked the certificates of occupancy for every building on that property.
So tenants are now wondering what is going to be next for them. 11 Alive Teresa Bowles was there as residents reluctantly moved into hotels.
Ava Park tenants
didn't give us time to do anything.
Forced out of their homes abruptly Thursday, they say, with no long-term plan of what's next for them.
Look at the families. They don't have nowhere to go.
Enough pressure to move tenant Clifford Hamilton to tears. He figured this day was coming as he's been trying to expose conditions here for some time with a petition.
I started talking to my neighbors. They had even worse problems than I had. I broke down because we shouldn't have to live that in.
The city of Griffin agreed when a spokesperson says Griffin Housing Authority got a hold of Hamilton's over 30 signatures. It brought to light the deplorable conditions tenants feel were being swept under the rug. City staff showed up last Thursday to inspect all 80 units.
They brought a crime scene van out here, pulled stuff out of the office. That's when I know it's real serious.
But it's the seriousness afterward that left residents feeling hopeless. The city revoked occupancy for all buildings, effectively closing Ava Park. Many of these units completely boarded up with the utilities cut off, forcing residents to move out with no air.
Y'all just not coming July 25th and telling us, oh, this is not livable, but we've been making complaints to y'all for years. So they basically just hide in their hand.
Sir Nadia Richmond says she had to uproot her children and move to the temporary housing being provided to her.
It ain't even about being comfortable. It's just about us having a roof over our head for now, but it's definitely not a long-term thing we can do.
A city representative says HUD will be responsible for permanent housing, but no word on a plan. And property owners, Millennia, have yet to respond to 11 Alive. In the meantime, Richmond, fed up with the uncertainty, wants to uncover it all in court.
Come together and do a class action lawsuit against Millennial. We're not letting up.
So on July 12th, the city sent a letter to Millennial Housing Management telling them to clean up the property, which the city considers a public nuisance. The city gave them until July 31st to respond with their plans to make those repairs. The property owners must now submit their plans to fix any code violations.
Today at a Detroit tiny home as bailiffs tried to evict a woman who refused to leave. The saga between Tara Brown and Cass Community Social Services has been playing out for months, and today the situation finally came to a head. Victor Williams was there as things turned violent. Victor.
Yeah, Kimberly, talk about an intense situation. You had dozens of protesters that were refusing to let this woman be evicted, but at the same time, you had court officers refusing to let her stay.
We're going in. You're in the way.
Things turned chaotic between protesters and court officers during an eviction on Detroit's west side, with a few dozen officers from DPD watching on.
The bailiffs, actually, they've been roughing up people who've been defending Tara's house.
Tara Brown is the one being put out of her tiny home through a court-ordered eviction. She claims it's all because she spoke out against her landlord, Reverend Fowler, with Cass Community Social Services, better known as CCSS.
This is what a home defense looks like, and this is what landlords can expect when they go to retaliate against tenants and throw them out. This is a lie. She told people that she was giving us tiny houses.
Protesters from multiple organizations, including Detroit Eviction Defense, have taken it on themselves to make sure Tara stays in her home. And although all of her belongings were taken out, some protesters are refusing to accept that even now.
We need to keep people in their homes right now. There is no housing available for people in Detroit.
Feeling confident about fighting back, and we're not done. We're just getting started.
Now, in response, Reverend Fowler sent us the following statement, which reads, CCSS tried to exercise extreme care to avoid the emotional event that took place at the tiny homes this morning. We never condone violence and planned with the courts, law enforcement, and additional parties to make sure people, Ms. Brown, the protesters, the bailiffs, police, neighbors, staff, and onlookers would not be injured or arrested. Conversely, Ms. Brown and the outside group have been announcing for weeks that she would not vacate the home and that they plan to use any means necessary to avoid the court-ordered eviction. And that's exactly what we're seeing playing out with many of these protesters right back here in front of the home. Victor Williams, Local 4.
All right, Victor.
In one South Austin mobile home community, dozens of families are being forced to leave their homes. The land some of them have lived on for decades has been sold.
KXAN's Blake Devine looks at why it's not easy for these people to just pick up their homes and find a new place to live.
Not had time to even process a lot of it.
After 19 years living at the Congress Mobile Home and RV Park, Dwayne Wilmore has been evicted.
I've got nowhere to go. I can't afford moving into these places right now. Basically, this is it.
The 60-day notice to leave came from the new owner. And there aren't many options for him.
Once you come off that street, everything slows down.
Some other communities are only taking in people with newer mobile homes.
You've got to be fairly brand new before they even offer to even let you in. And most of these are not.
Austin City Council member Vanessa Fuentes is working with tenant advocacy group BASTA to try and help these people.
The challenge is that there are not locations, affordable housing locations for our residents within the city limits. And so they're having to look outside.
BASTA says that mobile homes are a safe haven for affordable housing.
Usually in mobile home parks, people own the trailer. And so what they're renting is the land, and that is a lot more affordable. So the rents range from $500 to like $800 or $900.
According to Rent Cafe, the average apartment rent in Austin is a little more than $1,800.
We really need to think how are we protecting communities that have roots here? Or are we just making it like a playground for, out-of-state investors to come?
Blake Devine, KXAN News.
City leaders have stepped in before to help residents in one mobile home park stay in their community. In 2020, the city approved a $2.5 million loan to help people living in the North Lamar mobile home park. That loan, along with millions from other lenders, allowed people living in that community to buy the land under their homes. The previous owners had planned to make improvements and raise rents, which would have pushed out most of the people living there.
Now at 9. An apartment complex deemed unsafe.
As of right now, the building is red tagged.
Residents ordered out.
We took out everything we could from our homes and we're just waiting for some news.
They're reacting.
It's astonishing, this is where I grew up.
To the emergency evacuation.
Those residents are being let back in this morning to pick up any other valuables they may have left behind.
7's Samantha Sosa is live in North Miami Beach with the latest for us this morning. Samantha.
Good morning. We're already seeing some people here packing up. Officials saying that they'll use those tents to give some people more information this morning.
I took almost all my stuff, just my furniture's upstairs.
People rushing to pack up this morning. Vicky Rodriguez had to stay in an Airbnb last night.
Management didn't send an email till 3 o'clock, but I heard from a neighbor at 1.
Tents set up to help others who will be coming to pick up their things in the next few hours. Police standing by after everyone had to evacuate last night.
I had to bring all the stuff out.
Guillermo Graziano and his family are just a few of the nearly 120 people forced out of their homes Monday after their apartment building was deemed structurally unsafe. He's lived there for 17 years.
It's terrible. I was told while I was walking my dog that we had to be evacuated from the building.
Sebastian Rojas and his family have been there for about 25 years. He says they're frustrated things got to this point.
It's astonishing, this is where I grew up. Having to take all your stuff, you have to figure out what's important to you, what's not.
The building, known as Bayview 60 Homes, is located at 3800 Northeast 168th Street. All day we saw as shocked and confused residents grabbed what they could and left, many not knowing where they would sleep.
I don't know what I have to do, and I don't know where I have to go.
We have the Red Cross helping all of the people that live in the building out, together with the Homeless Trust.
We're told repairs were being made to the building, but it got to the point where things were too far gone. The city manager says the building owner is being cooperative.
They have been responsible. They're actually giving everybody their 3 days of hotel stays, reimbursable at the hotel of their choice, up to $150 a day. And they are giving everybody their April rent back, as well as their security deposits right now.
This is the second building in North Miami Beach deemed unsafe to live in less than a year. Close to 300 people forced to evacuate the Crestview Towers back in July.
When I read the news this morning, I was like, like someone's really looking over me.
As for this latest situation, amidst all the chaos, at least one man we spoke with says he's relieved. He tells us just last month he was in the process of buying this building from the owner, but
Felt like she was rushing me to close and rushing me to go hard on my contract. So I got out of contract.
And people will have until 2 p.m. today to go back inside and get some things moving forward. The mayor of North Miami Beach says that he'll be working with residents to make appointments to get the rest of their things. If you need some help navigating all this and you live in this building, there is a number you can call. It is 305-646-9101. That's the Bayview 60 Homes resident hotline. For now, we are in North Miami Beach. Samantha Sosa, Today in Florida.
We start tonight at 9 with a dire message for those living at this condemned apartment complex here in Aurora. It says, "Save our souls." You see the letters right there, SOS. A message written out in rocks in the middle of this complex. This is located near Nome Street.
Well, people there have just a few hours left before they'll be forced to leave. Tonight, we're speaking with a family that is impacted and learning more about their situation. Fox 31's Greg Nieto joins us live now with the very latest on their emotional story. Greg.
Yeah, Matt, you know, in the middle of the quad of that building, there's a big sign or flag that reads, "Need more time." Unfortunately, tonight, time is running out.
For many families in Aurora, this is a week of going back to school. For the families of 1568 Nome Street, though, it's the final hours of calling this place home. The city giving these residents until 7 a.m. tomorrow to be out. In the parking lot is where we first meet up with Ethel and her husband.
So where are you going to go?
We don't know.
Ethel says city-issued hotel vouchers won't help them much because she and her husband were never asked to sign a rental contract.
They're asking for contracts. They're asking for, this receipts. They never gave us contracts. They never gave us receipts. They just took cash.
The city says it continues to work to find solutions via hotel assistance and deposit assistance on new places for the more than 85 people to now live.
The city's been committed to providing resources the entire time.
Up on the 4th floor is where we meet Iriana Perez. She shows us the unit she shares with her 3 children and her cousin.
No tengo luz en la cocina. Él no cumplió con eso. Él no me daba respuesta.
She says for the past 3 months, she's always paid her rent on time, but has had continuing issues with lighting in the kitchen and issues with the front door and pest control problems.
Solamente tenemos un día que...
Also, half the month of August nearly gone. Doesn't give her family much time to find permanent housing moving forward. Meantime, Ethel and her husband are off to get a bite to eat and then back for a final night on Nome Street.
They would always tell us tomorrow, and tomorrow never came.
And again, the who's to blame carousel, if you will, continues. The city says the property management team is simply not doing enough to help these residents. In an interview with that property management team last week, they say that that building is actually being controlled by a certain gang and they feel helpless. There's nothing they can do about it. In Aurora, Greg Nieto, Fox 31.
And tenants of 2 buildings in Washington Heights, well, they're speaking out over what they call deplorable living conditions. Their landlord was actually sentenced to jail time over repeated housing violations. Lisa Evers is live outside of that building right now to bring us the very latest on this. Lisa.
Well, Bianca, the residents of 2 buildings here owned by the man dubbed the worst landlord in New York City are speaking out and demanding change. They say the only way to end their apartment nightmare is to own the units themselves, and they're taking action. Now, tenants at 705 and 709 West 170th Street came together along with local housing advocates and elected officials to rally for what they say is their right to own the apartments that many of them have had for decades and finally get the repairs and decent living living conditions that they're allotted according to the law. Problems have included many violations for unrepaired leaks that cause dangerous conditions and damaged ceilings and walls, rats, roaches, and shoddy maintenance. They're speaking out now because in a couple of weeks, city officials will do inspections to decide their fate. Here's what one resident told the rally.
We, the tenants, know what we want for these buildings. We want these buildings out of the hands of Mr. Oheb Shalom and converted into co-ops, yes, affordable co-ops, yes, so that we can live without the fear of another slumlord taking over these buildings.
Now, the landlord, Daniel Oheb Shalom, got out of Rikers Island recently. He was there for about 2 months on lockdown. He's also facing charges for other buildings he owns throughout the city, and also recently was indicted by Manhattan DA Alvin Bragg on charges that he was harassing rent-regulated tenants. We'll have much more for you on the Fox 5 News at 5. That's the latest here from Washington Heights. I'm Lisa Evers, Fox 5 News. Bianca, back to you.
More than 85 residents are being forced out of their apartments in South Austin.
So the reason? Winter storm damage, according to a notice neighbors did receive from property management.
KXAN's Jayla Washington reports on the bind these residents are now in.
Kiana Goff and her family are packing up her elderly mother Linda's apartment, forced out for safety.
Now we're rushing trying to figure something out. We don't know where she's going.
Goff says Linda has been dealing with a number of problems in her apartment
The light doesn't work
for a long time.
We can actually look and see up there. I've been trying to get my mother out of here. It costs money to move.
Some neighbors say this notice was left on their door a couple of days before the 4th of July holiday. It blames the winter storm for damages, but doesn't mention any specifics. And it also gives a list of resources to help with finding a new place.
There's nothing available in the city of Austin as of right now at this very moment for her.
Occupancy definitely has increased, which does make vacancy then much more limited.
The Austin Apartment Association says the housing market is rough right now.
Emerging from the pandemic, post-winter storm, it's sort of created a confluence of challenges for people seeking housing solutions.
Now, Linda and dozens of others here at Rosemont at Oak Valley have less than a month to move.
Where will she go? We don't know that yet.
And filled with frustration.
I'm beyond that.
Goff,
I'm beyond that.
she says they want more help from the complex.
We want them to assist in this process. We want them to get her in a place where she can be able to breathe.
Jayla Washington, KXAN News.
We reached out to the Rosemont Oak Valley apartment several times and have yet to hear back, but in that notice it did say that it will be repairing all units affected. Management is unsure how long this will take. Back in April, we told you about the townhouse at Double Creek property in Round Rock. They also needed to evict people to make winter storm related repairs. 44 families were affected. Their online site currently mentions work is ongoing. Initially, the complex put people in hotels, but they tell us their insurance company put a stop to that since repairs could take months. And due to that, they don't have any immediate availability at this time.
This is Elle Mertz's bathtub. The walls had to be ripped out after mold developed from a sewage problem in the building.
I look at my tub and it's filled with brown. It's been releasing this odor, a really foul odor. Then I come to find out a few weeks later that it was human feces that was in my tub, and they didn't disclose that to me.
Elle is now living in a hotel waiting for the problem to be fixed.
It took 2 months for them to even address the problem. They called me and day of were like, we can put you in a hotel, but you have to move out right now. No 24-hour notice with it.
But this is not the first time Rambler has had problems. In August, Rambler management told students the night before move-in they failed a fire inspection and move-in would be pushed back.
They told us the night before that we had to find a new place to live for the week.
While the complex awaits the upcoming inspections, the halls of the 6th floor are lined with fans and the rooms are covered in plastic and hazard tape after mold developed from a sewage problem, forcing over 100 students to relocate again.
Current management did not want to comment when we requested an interview, but a former employee says the apartment complex will do whatever it takes to help relocate students and provide the needs for them.
I think if it does come down to that, Rambler will take care of the situation. Whenever I worked there, they guaranteed all students would have financials accommodated for.
For residents like Elle, she just wants to know when she can move back in and when she will have a functioning apartment.
And they just continue to not give us answers.
Nicole Ainelli, reporting Texas TV.
About a dozen tenants in Old East Dallas are facing an affordable housing crisis. They're being forced to move out of an older apartment complex in a neighborhood where high-end developments are taking over. Fox 4's Lori Brown live in Dallas on Bryan Street with their stories. Lori.
Lori's, the apartments here built in 1955 went for $800 a month, a price that is getting hard to find in Dallas, especially just 10 minutes from downtown.
We have seen affordable housing totally disappear in Dallas.
Residents of Bryan Song Apartments are scared. They received notices December 10th that they have to be out February 10th.
They're knocking down the old apartments and building up condominiums.
Dion Lee hasn't been able to find anywhere to go with her kids, ages 17 and 14, and a grandson who is 2.
It's kind of hard right now. Everywhere I try to go to, they say my income have to double the amount for a one-bedroom. I'm paying $800 where I'm at now.
Kimberly Pascal, mother of a 9-year-old boy, has an even more complicated situation.
This was my safe location from a domestic violence trafficking shelter.
Pascal has a criminal record for prostitution.
So moving here was like my break and finally get to do something and be a mom. And now leaving, I've been, you're a sex offender? And I'm like, no, not really. And it's 7 years for my last conviction and stuff, but it still comes up.
She worries about her options.
It hurts to say, but a shelter.
David Etches, the new owner of the apartments, told us over the phone, "I'm looking into options. I don't want to make any promises I can't keep. I will do my best to accommodate them so no one is out on the streets." Today's news conference was organized by the Texas Tenants Association. Sandy Rollins says the landlord wasn't breaking any laws by asking tenants to leave in 60 days. That's why she wants to see laws change.
They're probably not doing anything too far out of the norm. The problem is the norm is unacceptable. So Texas tenant landlord law and the City of Dallas code do not protect tenants when landlords redevelop.
Portland, Seattle, Los Angeles, and Austin all require relocation assistance when a tenant is displaced for new development.